Today I'll be discussing the structural design of shallow foundation. So I'll be going through the contents in this way. I'll be giving you the overview, then suitability of shallow foundations, wherein I'll be discussing where exactly shallow foundations are used and where deep foundations should not be used or cannot be used. That is the suitability. The different types of shallow foundations I'll be covering. Then foundation type selection, which will help us to select which foundation type out of the many foundation types that I'll discuss. So which has to be chosen in which situation, that will discuss about that. Then the bearing capacity, which is the soil's bearing capacity, and that tells us that how much is the load bearing capacity of the soil, and I'll be discussing that in detail. Then structural design of foundations, and then detailing is the reinforcement detailing of foundations, where I'll be showing a few sections of foundations showing the reinforcement detail. So basically, what is a foundation? A foundation is, as we all know, it is the lowest part of the structure, and it is directly in contact with the ground. From there, it transmits the load from the structure above to the soil. And it is a very important part of the structure which has to be designed very carefully, because there are many structural failures which happen due to the failure of foundations on. Now this picture shows the load transfer. It shows that there are gravity loads. So in gravity loads there are dead loads, superimposed dead loads, and live loads, which are transferred first to the slab. Then from slab it is transferred to the beams, then to the columns, then foundations, and finally to the soil. There are also dynamic loads like earthquake and wind. They are directly applied on the columns and beams, that is the structural frame, and from there it is transferred to foundation and then to soil. So basically foundation helps in carrying all the loads. So it is important that we know that what are the section properties of the foundation and what are the properties of the soil, where where finally the load is being transferred. Now the suitability. So basically a shallow foundation generally is a kind of foundation where the depth of foundation D, as I've shown in the figure here, the depth of foundation is measured from the NGL, which is the normal ground level, to the base of the foundation. So this depth is less than the lateral dimensions, which is B. It can be either of the lateral dimensions, and if it is less, the depth is less than the lateral dimension, it is called a shallow foundation. Then suitability is then when bearing capacity of the soil is more. So if the bearing capacity is not good at shallow levels, then we may have to go much deep, and then a deep foundation is laid, like a pile foundation. So that has to be taken deep if the bearing capacity of the soil is not good in the upper layers of the soil. Then water table, that is also something which affects the bearing capacity only, because the bearing capacity is lowered with a higher water table. Then load from the structure, if the load is more, then whatever the bearing capacity we have available at the shallow layers of soil, that will not be sufficient to bear the load of the structure. And the ground surface has to be regular, because if the ground surface is not regular, then the one which is deep has to be taken care by a deep foundation, of course. So they should be more or less at the same level, then only we can provide all shallow foundations. Then types of shallow foundations is isolated, combined, strip, raft, which is also called as mat, and strap foundation. I'll be discussing them one by one. First is the isolated foundation. As the name suggests, that isolated will carry one individual load. So this will carry one individual load of a column or any kind of a concentrated load, which is one in number. So these can be of different types, like it can be a regular flat pad foundation, and stepped or sloped. So sloped and stepped are given because it is more economical, as foundation is basically a flexure member. So for the moments for which the foundation is designed is the moments which are occurring at the face of the column. So basically the depth of foundation is required at the face of the column, and at the edges of the foundation the depth is not required. So we can taper the foundation at the edges, which results into a sloped foundation or a stepped foundation. So this way it will be more economical, as the edge part of the pad foundation is not required. We just need to have a base, like a minimum depth for. Then combined foundations is all clear. It is basically given when there are more than one column. It can be 2 or 3 columns, and when individual column foundations overlap. So if they will overlap, then we of course cannot give isolated foundations for them, and there has to be a combined foundation which can cater to the area requirement of foundation for all the columns combined. And either the load from columns is more, or the bearing capacity is less, or the columns are very close to each other. So in that case, the foundations will overlap, and hence we'll have to give a combined foundation. Then strip foundation, it is given in case of linear loads. So linear loads can be any other thing as well, but what I have demonstrated is a wall. That is also a kind of linear load, which can be any kind of wall, masonry, concrete, or for that matter, any other material wall. So if there's a linear load, below that we have to give a strip foundation. And to support more than one column or concentrated load, spaced closely and centrally or in a linear fashion, because there can be there can be a case when there's no continuous linear load, but there are columns which are linearly aligned, and for that a linear foundation is required, which is a strip foundation. Then raft or the mat foundation. So this is a foundation which is preferred in many cases, because there's a large spread of concrete which can be given here. So this if there are a lot of closely spaced columns, and giving so many combined foundations is not a choice, and giving a mat foundation is a good idea in that case. So it is to support many columns or concentrated loads over a continuous slab. If they are not in a linear fashion, and they are haphazard columns, but there are many columns which has to be supported, so mat foundation is a good idea in that case. And in case of poor SPC, because in that case the sizing will be such that the footings will overlap, and we'll have to give a mat foundation. Closed columns, loads are high, so these are all the cases which will lead to overlapping of foundations, and hence we have to move from isolated to combined, and from combined to raft or mat foundation. And soil is non-homogeneous, means the bearing capacity of the soil is changing from one place to the other. It is very rapidly changing, prone to excessive differential settlements. So there are a lot of differential settlements, then we'll have to give a mat foundation. And yes, in mat foundation, the differential settlement is a criteria which has to be taken care in particular, more precisely, because in other foundations there is not much of a range of points where you have different settlements and you have to check a differential settlement. But here there is a great range of concrete that is laid, and there can be difference in the settlements at different points. Then a strap foundation. Strap foundation is when there are two footings which are connected by a strap. So this strap is like a beam. And this kind of foundation, I would not say that should be used much. And generally, if there is a good firm which happens to give a good quality of design and good quality of foundation, I would say that one should not prefer this, because this strap, which is a kind of beam, this is designed as a rigid member. So there might be a chance of rotation of the individual foundations more, and also this strap is not designed to carry the bearing pressure. So the best thing is that even if we are giving a strap foundation, this strap should not rest directly on soil, so that it does not take the bearing, because it is not designed for bearing. And if it takes the bearing and it is not designed, so of course that is a kind of failure. Yes. So these are the factors, the column loads or the height of the structure, because if the loads are high, then the foundations will overlap, individual foundations will overlap, and we may end up giving a combined and rough foundation. So that is one parameter of deciding the type, foundation type. And the height of the structure, if that is more, of course the loads will be more. Then the proximity of columns, very evident. And the bearing capacity of soil, if even if the loads are less and the bearing capacity of soil is less, then of course the foundations will again overlap. Availability of space around columns, and earthquake and wind susceptibility, because earthquake and wind, they are also kind of loads, and the kind of load, these every kind of load will be transmitted from the foundation to the soil. So the foundation has to take these loads as well. Then the bearing capacity, although this topic is related to the geotechnical aspect of design, but I will discuss this in brief to cater to the basic knowledge for the structural engineers or the structural design of shallow foundations, which I'm discussing. So it is the capacity to support the loads applied to the ground. So whatever the loads are taken by the foundation and given to the soil, so the soil should be able to support those loads. So that carrying capacity is the bearing capacity. So that is the safe bearing capacity. And if this safe bearing capacity is divided by the factor of safety, then that gives us the allowable bearing capacity. So that is what allowable bearing capacity is. And here the factor of safety is divided, safe bearing capacity is divided by the factor of safety to get the allowable bearing capacity, unlike the loads in which we multiply the factor of safety, because we need to reduce the capacity to cater to the factors of safety. So that is why it is divided. And the types of bearing capacity is the net safe bearing capacity and gross safe bearing capacity. So for the structural design, it is important to know the difference between the two, because net safe bearing capacity is, that does not consider any soil weight above the footing. And if we are comparing the pressure on the footing with the gross safe bearing capacity, so those pressures are along with the soil. This has to be above NGL, not below NGL. That is a mistake from my side. So the soil weight above NGL has to be added to the column loads, and that has to be compared with the gross safe bearing capacity. And so the gross safe bearing capacity is always more than the net safe bearing capacity. And the gross safe bearing capacity is calculated by adding the soil weight removed to put the foundation in place. And hence it will be the, the gross safe bearing capacity is more. It is many a times a confusion that what soil weight has to be added to get the gross safe bearing capacity. So it is always the soil removed from the level of NGL, and when that is added to the net safe bearing capacity, we get the gross safe bearing capacity. Then the structural design of foundations. So as I told earlier, the foundations are basically a flexure member. So flexure member is designed like a beam or a slab. Beam, slab, and foundations, they all are flexure member. And similarly, the foundation is also a flexure member. It is just that the foundations take a bearing or the load from the soil. So the load is applied from below to the top. And in case of beams and slabs, it is always a load from top to bottom. And now there are two parts of structural design of foundations. One is the determining the size of foundation, and the other one is determining the depth and reinforcement. So the size of foundation is calculated using the SLS or service loads, and the depth and reinforcement is determined using the ULS or collapse loads. So the size of foundation should be such that it does not allow the settlement, and we check the bearing capacity with the load pressure that is coming from the structure, and that if the pressure from the structure to the foundation is less than the bearing capacity, then the foundation is safe in settlement. And in SLS, which is the service loads, we one thing is that we check the size of foundation, and the other thing is eccentricity. Eccentricity is moment by the axial force. So this eccentricity should be less than or equal to L by 6, which is L is the dimension of the foundation, lateral dimension of the foundation. So the minimum pressure should not be less than 0. It should always be positive, and the maximum pressure should be less than the bearing pressure, which is P by A plus M by Z, and that pressure has to be less than the bearing capacity. It has to be net bearing capacity or gross bearing capacity, whichever the case is, as I discussed. Then in the collapse or ULS loads, it is checked like a flexure member, and flexure members are checked in moment one-way shear, so it is checked in the same way. And foundations are also checked for the punching shear, which is also called as the two-way shear, and it is a check to see that the concentrated load does not punch into the foundation slab. Depth and reinforcement are determined by checking the foundation in movement one-way shear and two-way shear. I've already discussed. Eccentricity M by P should be less than L by 6. And these are the general checks. Foundation is also checked for crack, overturning, and sliding, but they are not always done, as I've seen in the industry practice. Generally, the crack check is done when it is close to a water body or it is in a filled up soil. The foundation is in a filled up soil. In those cases, generally a crack check is done. But it is always a choice of the client whether he wants us to check for crack and everything. But generally we check for the sizing, moment, one-way shear and two-way shear. Sizing in SLS, that is service loads, and moment shear when punching in ULS or the collapse loads. And settlement and differential settlement. So of course settlement is a criteria in every kind of foundation, but differential settlement, as I already told, it comes into play more in case of a mat foundation, because the extent from one point to the other point is more, and there can be a difference, more difference from in settlement from one point to the other point. Then mathematical modeling, it is something which we do much more in the industry, and here we check the foundations by making a finite element model of a foundation. It can be done for any kind of a foundation and generally used in case of mat foundations. But if you are doing by use of any software which I've mentioned here, like the State Foundation Advanced or CSI Safe or RCDC, so they all create a finite element model of the foundation, and then the foundations are checked in the same things like the size, moment, shear. So the programs check for friction, overturning, crack, and everything. Then they give a result, which you can of course learn individually. And finally, the detailing of foundations. This is something which, of course, everyone sees at the end after the design is done. But this is a very important part of structural design, very important aspect, and it should be taken care of even while learning at college level or at industry level also. Even if the design is done, the detailing is very important, and the drawing has to have a good quality of detailing, which can give a good knowledge of what has been designed, and the good knowledge is conveyed in an efficient way to the site engineer as well, and hence it is very important. So this is isolated foundation, and this one is a combined foundation. I have given in one section for each for you to look at, and it has bottom reinforcement. So this is the main reinforcement, bottom reinforcement. And since the load is applied from bottom, so the foundation will deflect in this fashion, and hence the main reinforcement will be on the bottom face, and the top face is not the main reinforcement. It is for the tension, if there is any kind of tension coming in the footing. Otherwise, I told that the bearing pressure of negative value is not allowed. Minimum bearing pressure should be more than 0. So tension will not be allowed, but still for crack, a minimum tension reinforcement is given at the top face of the foundation. And in some cases, we allow 10% 10% pressure as tension. So 10% pressure in the tension phase. This is the detailing, and the column reinforcement of course goes to the bottom of the foundation. So there has to be a length called the development length, which has to be introduced inside the foundation. There are two parts of this development length. One is development length and compression, which is the straight vertical part, and the part which is bent after, that is the development length and tension. So development length and compression plus tension is the total development length. Generally, as per the Indian codes, the development length and compression has to be 35 times the dia of bar used in column. So that minimum LDC, which is the development length and compression, that has to be given, and that determines sometimes the depth of the foundation. So that particular minimum depth of the foundation has to be given in that. And there are no stirrups given in foundations. So the concrete RCC section should be capable enough to cater for the one-way shear, whatever is developing in the footing. This one-way shear is taken at a distance D, depth, effective depth of foundation from the face of the column. Then there's a PCC given at the base, just to provide the base, and there's a waterproofing layer above the PCC, and then the foundation is laid and the columns are in. All the levels have to be given very carefully in the detailed drawing. And then there is a schedule of the foundation which gives the foundation marking, the depth of that particular foundation, and the bottom and top reinforcement of the foundation. And there are face bars as well. This is all same as what happens in any kind of a flexure member. So in flexure member in Indian codes, it is that if the depth is more than 700 mm, then 0.1% of the reinforcement is given as face reinforcement at each face. So the same is given here in the foundations as well.